Welcome again. In this lesson we will be painting a pointy river stone. The materials needed to complete this acrylic piece are a flat paintbrush number 2, a round paintbrush number 4, a fine paintbrush 10O, graphite pencil, a rag, water, watercolor paper, and a flat surface we can use as a palette. The acrylic pigments we will be using this time are ivory black, burnt umber, Payne's gray, olive green, cadmium yellow medium, parchment, and titanium white. Let's begin by drawing the structure of the pointy river stone. This initial stage resembles a small map where we indicate through small sectors all the indentations, the dimension of the stone, the light distribution, shading, shape, and texture. By only sketching the main edges, we start building an idea of what the following steps will be. To start applying color, we create the base layer with burnt umber and parchment. It is important to mix with water to have good distribution of paint over the surface. Water is a vital element when we paint with acrylics. It rinses, thins, and delays the drying stage of pigments. This is the moment when we start distributing the base layer over the stone by using what I call dirty colors. I use dirty colors mostly to create backgrounds to fill gaps in mountains and every structure related to rock and stone. And while we apply dirty colors over the stone, let me tell you a little bit about why acrylic paint was invented. Around 1920, a group of Mexican muralists needed more resistant mediums that could endure the elements. They needed mediums that could dry quickly and remained untouched. They found industrial plastic resins to bind pigments and adapt this mixture to art. Alfaro Siqueiros, one muralist among the previously mentioned, moved to New York and continued experimenting with this synthetic resin. He named it acrylic. After some years, painters around the United States were using already acrylic colors, and by 1950, manufacturers were profiting from this interesting new medium. Back to our interesting looking river stone. Notice how I have designated a different color from the dirty color palette to each face of the stone. But this distribution wasn't bestowed randomly. As we place color, we make a very important decision. That is, where the light should come from, and naturally, where can we apply shading. In our stone, we will notice that light is mostly coming from the upper area in the screen, whereas the shade remains in the lower side of the screen. In this case, light will be and is represented by titanium white, parchment, and cadmium yellow. At the same time, shade is represented by ivory black, burnt umber, and Payne's gray. So, then, how should we classify olive green? In this specific wilderness element, green remains neutral as it will represent the happy moss layer that starts growing along the extension of the stone. Now, let's use ivory black to add shade. Decorating each face of the stone turns the whole task in easier steps that have a structure of their own. Adding layer over layer can grant us with some power to create texture. Applying Payne's gray over the surface will represent the natural reflection coming from the sky or bigger bodies of water. With both olive green and Payne's gray, we are adding body to our stone, communicating the presence of water and vegetation. Natural light. Combining cadmium yellow and parchment will result in that natural warm lighting that things usually get when exposed to sun. Let's distribute such light across the stone and be subtle about it. Think of it like joy spread across the stone. Have fun with the process. Distribute the joy over the pointy river stone and enjoy the act of painting. It is time to take care of details. Let's switch to our fine paintbrush. By mixing titanium white and cadmium yellow, it's time to highlight certain edges of the stone. Create dots and lines, and form patterns of your own. We can be free for at least a short amount of time. We want to communicate that the stone has relatively sharp edges, and that texture is widely present in the surface. The time to use pure titanium white is finally here. Applying this pure color over the edges of the stone will not only highlight texture, but it will provide the look of the stone with traces of water. Beautiful. Titanium white traces tell us about the mystery in the viscosity within H2O. The more we add highlights and details, the closer we get to better results. Don't be afraid of placing texture here and there. There is no judgment in symmetry. Have you ever stopped and observed a stone in the ground? They are all imperfect, and that is why they get the privilege of being unique. We can find art in everything, for beauty is whispered to us all. Stop for a minute and find the greatness in simplicity. Adding a final layer of olive green all over the surface of the stone will communicate moisture. By adding lines with a heavier load of titanium white paint in the edges, but especially at the base of the stone, we can achieve the look of an extra amount of water. You can repeat these final steps using titanium white highlighting and olive green layering as many times as you wish. Finally, ivory black. The elegance of adding a dark but subtle silhouette. Always keep in mind to rinse your paintbrushes in between colors and get rid of the excess of water from the bristles. I hope you have enjoyed this wilderness art tutorial. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.